It's Vancouver's podcast on the Canada's Podcast Network.
Today, I'm super excited to introduce you to Annee. She is the co-founder and CEO of Startup League, which is an educational gaming platform for students to learn creative problem solving through competition and play. She's a serial entrepreneur and who scaled global ed tech companies into more than 30 cities across 12 countries in under 3 years with clients like Adobe and Stanford. So this is her first startup, her first startup was in 2016, and she went back to her original investors. She's very well connected in the tech scene in British Columbia here, and also the proud recipient of the Women Tech Founders Award for Gaming, AR, and VR, plus BC Business's 30 Under 30. Welcome, Annee.
Thank you so much, Angie. I'm really honored to be having this conversation with you.
Awesome. Well, and I'm excited about the whole idea of providing a gaming platform for children to learn creatively. So just share a little bit about your entrepreneurial story and how you got here.
Yeah, I guess it all begins like every other cliche startup founder story. I left law school in late 2011, started my first business sort of out of necessity. I was just learning about how to be a more healthy, fit version of myself and just became obsessed with sports nutrition. My significant other at the time was also very well versed in the industry, and so we decided that we were going to solve this problem of not having a retail space where we could comfortably go into and learn about these products as well as for an affordable price. That was the first business. And we were lucky enough in 2012 to have grown that business into what would be a 30-store franchise across British Columbia. So yeah, it was a mom and pop shop that resold.
Exploded.
Yeah, well, for whatever reason, I like to say that it was really great timing because Instagram was sort of this up and coming platform for lots of businesses to leverage, and we. I mean, I don't want to take the credit, but like we were one of the first really to understand influencer marketing and leverage that to find success in a business that would otherwise be really challenging. And that was it. Like once I got to try and experience entrepreneurship, I was hooked and wanted for the rest of my life to continue doing this, but more so teaching this. So empowering other people with the education to be successful entrepreneurs. Because of course, like in that 3-year span from 2012 to 2015, 30 stores led to, and it was a function of a lot of mistakes too.
Oh, and mistakes are always part of the entrepreneurial journey, whether we like it or not. Right? But tell me a little bit, let's dig into Startup League itself specifically. What is it and who's your ideal audience? Who's the user?
Yeah, so Startup League is an educational gaming platform. I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive because gaming is a completely different thought bubble. It's a completely different category than education. And when we think of like, educational gaming, it doesn't sound very exciting or thrilling. But what we've done is effectively created this library of games for high school students to practice and to compete on creative problem-solving skills that stem from our work with design thinking. And some of those games reward the students for things like, for developing skills like curiosity and empathy, which we sort of forget are the pillars of critical thinking and effectively the pillars of innovation. And so
And what problems are those students solving? So when they go in, do they have their own avatar? And is this something that would be independently run, or are you working with school system, school boards? Who are your collaboration partners?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are all great questions. It's funny, we just created avatars for the team. We have all
Okay.
of like there's 6 of us and everyone has a unique avatar that looks sort of like them. And it's probably the most fun having group conversations on Slack with those avatars. But okay, so this sort of began in 2018 as as a single game. We worked
Okay.
to develop the first game, which was called Queue Up, and it looks at the learning experience similarly to developing a skill like athleticism. So in
Okay.
basketball, there's one thing that you do every day, and that is dribble a ball. And you have one goal, and that's to get that ball into a hoop. You do drills, you practice, and you exercise in order to become better at being an effective and a powerful basketball player. And I think that more often than not, we are not practicing those basic fundamental skills in other
Mhm.
things of life that are so important, like critical thinking and creative problem solving. So our approach was really inspired by that entire thesis. And so the game that we developed, Q Up, is a daily exercise that students can work to
Okay.
develop their curiosity and empathy simply by answering 2 questions. Every
Okay.
student is shown a unique problem statement each day. That problem statement can be something silly and made up, like Justin Bieber's in jail, or it can be something really serious and matter of fact related to the world around us, like the temperature is rising or global climate is real. And the students have to answer the questions: who cares about that problem, and why do they care? What's
So I got to ask the question with the emergence of so many apps and so many tech platforms. I'll pick on just the tech ed space, but what's your value proposition? What sets you apart from, I don't know how many competitors you have in Canada, but certainly it's a global issue, global field of competitors. What makes you unique?
Yeah, so I would say this sort of touches back into your previous question too. Is the game that we built was tested and proved to be incredibly popular with students,
Okay.
but the reality is this can't be sustainable, and the engagement is very fickle because it becomes a solely education, or what we call like a hip-based business, if we are just producing games for students. And in our time launching the game, we learned that the person who we really want to be supporting through this journey, in terms of empowering with the skills and the tools to teach creative problem solving, is the educator. So the last 6 months,
Okay.
I've been working to build a platform which looks a lot like a library for educators to access and be able to host their own local games that are rewarding these students with the ability, or rewarding the students for developing these skills. And the value proposition is in that I feel like teachers are inundated with so many different roles, responsibilities. I forget often that like a teacher is more than just an educator inside the school. They're oftentimes the security guard, a parent, a friend, um, like a therapist. And the one skill that every teacher we've spoken to over the last 3 years of developing Startup League can agree on is that they truly want their students to be better off with those critical and creative
Mhm,
problem
mhm,
solving
mhm.
skills that are really intangible and really difficult to measure. And so we've created a platform that does
Neat.
exactly that.
Perfect. So, and just 3 years of development, right? You tell me a little bit about how have you financed your startup here?
All right, so this is a fun conversation that I don't get to have often. We started off funded, so we raised a pre-seed round through family and friends. I don't really share this with too many people, but I guess we're sharing it now with everybody. I um, After my first business, sold. We sold to one of our franchisors. I saw a small profit and took that money and I parlayed it into my next business, which was ProtoHack. ProtoHack, which we have sort of shared about in the bio, was an education company that we were able to scale globally. And I took the team from Protohack. We had this new problem that we wanted to solve. Beyond teaching innovation and entrepreneurship, we really wanted to solve this problem of a lack of problem-solving skills beginning in schools. So we saw 2 profitable years with Protohack, took the revenue from that, and moved to New York as a team to join this incubator out of NYU. Ran through all of the money because New York is incredibly expensive. But then left with an MVP with some market research that we were ready to really hit the floor running with. At that point, I raised a small round, about $250,000 through family and friends. A lot of those family and friends were actually a part of my poker community. So we talk about gaming, we talk about creative problem solving, we talk about competitiveness in gaming and problem solving. This sort of becomes full circle when people learn that I also play poker in my spare time, what little spare time I have. And over the course of the last year, my poker earnings have also bankrolled my startup.
Interesting.
So before raising any more capital, we feel comfortable enough with that as a resource. So I haven't taken a salary from the business in 3 years. And in place of that, and to support the salaries that we do pay with our business is a lot because of poker.
And Annie, it's not an uncommon story, right? There's a lot of people that have a long game and are so passionate about their business that, and I've been in the same boat, right? Being either asset rich, cash poor, or just purely, going hungry in order to feed the tribe that's actually helping you build your business with the hopes of the long run. So I think that's a bit of an entrepreneurial common story. So
I'm glad you on that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit about, you talked about New York and being expensive and fraternizing off in this incubator, which is very exciting. But you're living in Vancouver, Greater Vancouver. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about what it's like to be a tech company in Vancouver.
Oh, I love this part because I think growing up, I never thought that I would live anywhere else except for Vancouver. I loved it so much. And then when I went to law school, my eyes really opened up. I moved to Toronto in 2011 and was like, whoa, Vancouver is really tiny compared to Toronto. And then when I went to New York, I was like, whoa, Canada is really tiny. So definitely perspective. And side note, I encourage every person in this world to see the rest of the world before they make a decision about where they want to live forever. But there's something that's really special about Vancouver that I cannot be more proud of, and that's this familial sort of collegial experience within the community. Nowhere else in the world. And I've been to San Francisco, to New York, to LA, involved in the startup scene because we were hosting innovation challenges for those respective cities. Every member so supportive. So we don't have a lot of capital in Vancouver for venture. There's not a lot of not high tolerance for risk when it comes to Vancouver's investment scene, but everybody here has access to the same resources and really goes out of their way to share that with one another.
Well, and that's a good segue into the question. If you could sort of name 2 or 3 key resources that you personally use, either for an existing tech company that could take advantage of those, or maybe even somebody considering doing business in Vancouver, whether it's a professional group or an event or something, what would be your top tips?
Oh, okay. So the first and foremost is a grant called the ISI grant. It's through New Ventures BC. It's effectively, I'm going to totally butcher this, but you can get 50% of salary returned to you if you hire a university student. So one of our head developer, his name is Shive, he's extraordinary. I don't know how we lured him away from school, but he took a break from UBC. He's currently enrolled in his 3rd year, and his entire salary has been subsidized by the government. because he's dedicated to building something innovative with our team.
Wow.
So somewhere between like, $15,000 and $30,000 was returned to us this last year. In addition to that is the SHRED credits. So science research, E stands for something, I don't know, development. So when you're doing something innovative, if you can prove that your team is building technology that is really pushing the envelope and discovering something new, like the government will also give you up to 55% back on whatever expenses, so like salaries and wages dedicated to that. So also we're saving tens of thousands of dollars annually that anywhere else in the world just wouldn't be possible.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Fantastic.
thank you to the Canadian government, but specifically to Vancouver, there's a community called Volition. They're a group of advisors, and they host a monthly pitch night. And I am a very outgoing, bubbly, I'm not nervous in group settings, but there's something really different about being in front of your peers and pitching, being in front of investors and pitching. And they provide this free opportunity for startup founders from all stages to come get up on stage and flex those muscles and pitch. And they do it. They did it for a long time with no cost. So I highly encourage every entrepreneur, like if you're just coming up with an idea now or are ready to go and raise capital, to go through Volition.
Fantastic. Now, a little bit of Annee personally, as far as how do you, there's a lot of energy expended when you're, managing staff and starting up a business and going for funding, right? Raising funds. How do you recharge? What's your personal sort of, protocol or routine that naturally recharges you?
Yeah, you're asking me this at probably my most zen state I've ever been in my life. And I have so much to thank for that. The first and foremost is a new practice that I've, committed myself to, and that's conscious breathing.
Makes me want to breathe. So,
the first thing is me saying that tells whomever's listening to this, or for you too, I think as I'm saying it, I'm thinking about my breath.
Yes.
And it's the one biological thing that we have control over that controls everything in us. When we're anxious or stressed out, our breath becomes shorter and more shallow, and there's less air going to our brains and to our muscles, and so we're fatigued. And I think being conscious about my breathing, waking up each morning and doing something very simple, so I highly suggest everybody do this, is to take 2, 3, 4, 5, however many you want to do, breaths where you're breathing in for as long as you can, holding that breath for as long as you can, and then breathing out for as long as you can. And that's one breath. So conscious breathing for sure. Working out regularly, finding time to just be outdoors. It's hard in Vancouver when it's raining all the time, but that just gives you no excuse to get out on a sunny day or a clear day. And practicing gratitude. So an exercise that I do with my entire team each day before we start any conversation is we talk about 3 things. The first is what are we willing to let go of? Something as silly as I'm willing to let go of the bus driver that didn't wait for me. And the second is what I'm grateful for. Be silly, I'm so grateful that today the coffee shop had oat milk. And then what I'm looking forward to. So it could be something really selfish too. I'm really looking forward to this hot dog I'm about to eat. All to myself because my boyfriend's not around.
Awesome. Well, and is there any particular mantra or saying, either on a board on your room or on your computer, that definitely resonate with you personally?
Oh, there's so many. But I actually just saw this meme on Instagram, courtesy of Will Smith. He's great, by the way.
He is great. We love Will.
Yeah.
We should get Willed up here to Vancouver, I think. Yeah.
Exactly. I would go and see him in person.
Yeah.
It was just a photo of 2 caricatures, and then he's like, hey, where did you get that? And then he's like, one character is asking, like, hey, where did you get that? And the other's holding onto this jar and says, I created it myself. And on the jar, it says happiness.
Oh,
And I was like, man, like that is ownership. And that is understanding that, you know what, it's not something that's easy or born into us, but like we have the control to
yes.
create that for ourselves. So yeah, that's something.
And you and I need a jar of happiness for those moments that we shared before, right?
No, I wish
Pass it to you when you need it, and you can pass it back to me when I need it.
Thank you so much for that. I think this is like so unrelated to the conversation we're having now, but we've spoken before, and like you are just such a blessing, Angie.
Well, I look forward to meeting in person. If you could leave our listeners with one last piece of advice or something that they can take away and germinate, what would you like to leave with them?
So for all of our entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, I just want to encourage you to continue to do the great work that you're doing. It's not easy, but I promise you it will be worth it, because even if the outcome isn't what you expect it to be, the learning along the way is everything you need it to be. And I have this inkling in my body, my mind, my soul that my thesis this entire time has always been right, and that is in the coming years, AI is going to take over the world, and if we are not the critically thinking, the creative solvers that we are, and continue to have the entrepreneurial mindset that we have, we don't stand a chance. And really, so what I'm saying is humanity is in your hands. So.
Wow, that's a huge statement. That's awesome. I love it. And after today, Annee, what's the best way to get a hold of you? What's the one best mechanism?
Oh yeah, you can find me on Twitter. It's
okay.
Annee Ngo. That's my full name, ANNEENGO. Or on Instagram, it's Annee Plays Q Up. So ANNEEPLAYSQUP.
Perfect. Well, and I look forward to seeing you in both of those spots after this, and hopefully in person in Vancouver very shortly. Once again, Annee, thank you for joining us. We're so excited to have learned more about Startup League and supporting you in your efforts and broadcasting across Canada, what amazing things you're doing. And so from Canada's podcast, thanks for listening, where you can listen, discover, and engage.